again now and Menachos Mem Daled. Amar Yehuda, Talis Shula Kol Shloshim Yom Torah Min Tzitzis, V'kan Ve'elech Chayabis. So Talis, for 30 days, you borrow a Talis for 30 days, is patur from Tzitzis. Tanan Mehachi Hadarba Pundaki Be'eretz Yisrael Ba'asloicher Ba'is B'chutz La'aretz Kol Shloshim Yom Patur Min Mezuzah V'kan Ve'elech Chayav. So we have a dinyan between Talis and Mezuzah. The Gemara compares the two to the tour of a Pundaki in Eretz Yisrael. Up to 30 days, if you're in an inn, or so for Bais and Chutz La'aretz, you're patur for the first 30 days, like a talis. There's a separate din that if you're socher a bais in Eretz Yisrael, there's a chiyuv miyad, which we say because Rashi explains, because then once you put it up, you're chayv miyad, then you're not going to go out so quickly because you can't take the mezuzah with you, like the Gemara says about mitzia. Mela, it'll cause more yishuv Eretz Yisrael. So now the dinyan between the two needs to be understood. Rashi explains that. Rashi says that a socher bais is patur shema yachsabo. Up to 30 days you're patur because when a person is there 30 days, then we assume that he's there to stay. If he wants to stay, he's going to stay. Up to 30 days, it's like you're trying it out. It's not so precious if you're going to stay there or not. So you might shema yachsabo, and therefore you're patur. So you see, according to Rashi, that the tour in up to 30 days is a tour mitzad the diur of the person. It's a tour in the diras agavra, the dir of the person. That something chaser in the diras agavra up until 30 days that we assume that we can't make the assumption he's really there to stay. It's not really a dira kvua mitzad the gavra. So it comes out though that according to Rashi, that if you be there 30 days, there's nothing chaser mitzad the diras agavra anymore. Then pashtus the chiyuv would be a chiyuv deraisa. That achar shloshim yom it's a chiyuv deraisa at that point. So pachas shloshim yom they patur the gamre. Yosem shloshim yom they were chayiv you even midiraisa. So now the Tosfos learns similar to Rashi. Tosfos says that you can't learn from here that it's compared to the general halacha stam shayla shloshim yom. Maybe that's different. The Tosfos goes on to say that by a talis, if you're shoel a talis, midaraisa you're patur l'olam, because it has to be your talis. But avogat the mezuzah chayav hasocher kenemasik hasam the beisko lo asal afuke beisacherem. By a talis, there's a drasha to tell you that you're patur l'olam midaraisa, like gracious agaze. Masha'en ken a mezuzah. Once you're there 30 days, then you're chayav. Even though the Torah says beiska, you have to have your bais. Beisecha is not coming lafuke in ownership of the house. It's coming. It's just a halacha like we darshan previously in the Gemara back in Lamed Daled. That beisecha we learn a different drasha of derech biyoscha. That it's the way you walk into the house. You should put it on the side yamin. But you don't learn from there an ownership din of ownership. So therefore, and it goes on to say that. So why do Chazal decide to use this drasha for derech biyoscha and not for ownership? Because it says, "Hani time to l'mistaber kol lemute by beisacherim the kevod of the shimur of it lo shnok." Since it's coming to the shimur, it should not make a difference if you're an owner or not. So kol sof, if you live there, you need shimur. Can I read a pair comment of Basra Gabi Nishtosh Sham Shloshim Yom Hari Anshe Ir? Tosfos compares us to the Gemara says in Basra that the Gabi Chiyuve Staka and Chiyuve Misim and taxes of the city, you're considered Me Anshe Ir Achar Shloshim Yom. You Kol Shloshim Yom Tov says Pater Dela Beis Dira Didehu. But up to 30 days you're Pater because it's not considered Beis Dira Didei. It's not your Beis Dira. So this comes out to be similar to Rashi, and so Tosfos that's been learning that Achar Shloshim Yom a socher is chayav b'deraisa. Just there's a chiluk between Rashi and Tosfos that Rashi only emphasizes the dira of the gavra, the dira of the person, that who shema yaksabo. Akodem Shloshim Yom who shema yaksabo. Achar Shloshim Yom lo yaksabo. So therefore, it's a full diras, a dira kavua. Tosfos adds in a word over here. It says that it's la base dira didehu. He's saying that somehow Tosfos is ma'arib over here, the Indian of the bias. Even though you don't have to have actual ownership of the bias, but you need to have a base dira. So the kviyus of the base dira takes shloshim yom. That's what comes out according to Tosfos. But the tzad shavash of him is a bein Rashi, bein the Tosfos. Achar shloshim yom, maybe tzad the dira sagavra Rashi or the base dira of Tosfos, it becomes a chiyuv deraisa achar shloshim yom. We socher a bias.
Do you mind repeating the machlokas Rashi Tosfos? I just it started working the voice.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, I can hear perfectly. Yeah, I missed the Rashi part, so I'm not understanding machlokas.
What I'm saying is that Rashi says that the tour of Pachos B'Shloshim Yom is Shema Yatzarbo. So we see that there's something not kavua in the diras Adam, the diras Gavra Pachos B'Shloshim Yom, that once you get to Shloshim Yom, then we say that a person, once you're there to stay. Less than that, you might leave. So until it becomes a dira kavua, it's on the person, then it's pater. So however, once it becomes Shloshim Yom, you're high because it's considered a dira kavua, it's on the gavra, it's on the person. So and that would be a chiyuv deraisa at that point. Tosfos seems to agree with Rashi that it's a chiyuv deraisa achar Shloshim Yom, just with a slight shinui. The Tosfos adds in not just the word that it's a dira after Shloshim Yom, but it's a base dira. Kodem Shloshim Yom la base dira today. Even if Tosfos is going on to the assumption you do not have ownership. You're just a socher. But since we're not darshaning beisecha that you have to own it, just derech biyascha. So the derech biyascha tells you that this has to be a bia. It's the place that you walk into as a base dira. But once you're there, Shloshim Yom, and it is considered base dira today, then it's chiyuv deraisa, even though you don't have actual ownership over the house. We're not darshaning beisecha. You have to have actual ownership. It's enough to have your base dira, the place, a bias that you live in it. But the bias itself somehow is mitzuraf to the chiyuv, according to Tosfos.
It's interesting because Rashi learned by base like Knesset, base Medrash, that you need bias in the shul. Here he's not learning the bias.
Yeah,
sounds like more Lishitasa.
Well, it's a good question. I was thinking about this, that you have to be mechalatin in basic Knesset, that over there's Kedusha. So we spoke about last time, Rashi seemed to not be learning the mahalach of Kedusha, but sof kol sof, it's a makom kaddish. So there's unless you have an ownership over it, then I guess the default is that either it falls to Kedusha or it falls to the tzibur. And but the type of dira there is it's the opposite of a dira. It's not just that you don't need a base dira, but it's lola dira unless it's owned by him personally. So basic ness is going to be a special case. It's going to be a separate halacha.
Yeah.
Good question though. So that's the first lesson of Tosfos. Now Tosfos goes on in the second lesson. Tosfos says, first of all, Tosfos has a kasha, which is an obvious kasha now. Ben the Rashi, Ben Tosfos, we have a kasha that what is the dimyon of the Gemara? That the Gemara is comparing talis shula, which even achar shloshim yom that you're chayav, you're still only chayav midrabanan. There you need a talis that has to be mamash yours. If it's not mamash yours, then your main chayav only midrabanan. Midraisa your main pater. Mashenkin, according to Tosfos in the first lesson in Rashi, socher bayis achar shloshim becomes chayav deraisa, and it becomes the base dira today because it's totally in the diras, either totally in the diras adam or somehow it's sirif of the dira with the person. So the person with the bias in some way, but the Maisa becomes a Chiyuv D'Oraisa. So what's the comparison in the Gemara? That Tosfos says, Hada Maisi Hacha Siyula Yehuda Lahada Talis Shula. So says, B'Dochak says, B'Dimistabrele the Damos Talis Midrabanan the Mezuzah D'Oraisa with Tzarach. Somehow it was mustaber to them to compare the two, but Tzarach, what is really the comparison? It's really Shver. That's the Chorah Tosfos Tzarach is what the comparison is Taka Shver. And maybe that kasha is what forces Tosfos to go on to the next shot. Miu Yashlomer the Mezuzah Nami Midrabanan. To answer this kasha of the comparison between mezuzah and talis, that mezuzah gufa also remains midrabanan. Because we use the pasuk of beisecha for derech b'yascha, so it says beisecha twice in the parsha. So one of them we're going to use for derech b'yascha, one we're going to use for ownership. You need actual ownership, and therefore, according to the second lashon Tosfos, a socher remains la'olam pater midaraisa from mezuzah. It's only a chiyuv midrabanan because it's mixi kididei, and that's the comparison between talis, that it looks like it says achar shloshim yom. Also a bais, once you live the 30 days, it's mixi kididei. So it's the same similar gzera drabanan. And Tosfos wants to say that we see like that also in the Gemara in Avodah Zorah and Chaf Aleph, two places. First of all, the Gemara above Metzia and Kuf Aleph on the Beis. Over there, the Gemara had a shaila by a socher who is chayav in a mezuzah. It brings a brisa in Kuf Aleph on Beis that a masker bais lechavero, the masker is chayav to do certain things in the house. The socher is chayav also to do certain things. And now in the Gemara had a shaila, boy my neighbor Sheshis. Mezuzah al mi. Mezuzah hamar b'sharshim mezuzah chovas hadarhu. So what's the shaila? It says it's chovas hadar. Elam makam mezuzah. So it goes on to explain what's a makam mezuzah. So what is chovas hadar? So that Rashi says over there, darshinim menachas beisecha derech b'yascha l'risha nichnas yotze zeh hadarba. So Rashi learns that Chavas Hadar means that it's a chiyuv, obviously it's a chiyuv on him. It's a chiyuv on the dar. And that's what the Gemara is being pushed over there. So Rashi and Shitaso learns that it's a chiyuv in the Gavra. So obviously when it says Chavas Hadar, that's where the Gemara speaks out, Lehevya, that's a chiyuv on the Gavra. The one that's Derech B'Yasecha, the one that walks in and out of the house. That's the Gavra, that's chayiv in mezuzah. But Tosfos says that the pshat over there in the Gemara is going to be lav the chiyuv is socher ma'aseh. It's not bringing it down like Rashi says that to be a chiyuv on the Gavra, it's a chiyuv chovas hadar. That's obviously he is the chiyuv mezuzah. El hachikamer Tosfos has a dachak shita sham masker enu chayiv ken she'eno darsham. It's not coming to chayiv the dar the socher because he's only chayiv in rabbanan. It's coming to pater the masker. Because Tosfos says in other places, and there's also Ritva in Bab Metzia there, that according to Tosfos, the second lashon of Tosfos, tarti ba'inen, you need two things. In order to be chayiv deraisa, you need two things. A, you have to have ownership of the house, and B, you have to actually live there. And without any of those two ingredients, then you're going to be pater midaraisa from mezuzah. So that's the machalach of Tosfos that we need two separate things to be chayiv. And also, Tosfos also has a shaila. The Gemara over there says that over there there's the Mishnah says in the Avodah Zorah and Chafam Beis in the bottom, ein maskirin lehen batim beretz Yisrael. You're not allowed to maskir a bais, to rent out a house to a goy in Eretz Yisrael. Vein sarach lomer sadais. Kal v'chomer, you can't be maskir to him a sada. The Shal is, what's ein sarach lomer? What's the kal v'chomer by a sada? Why is that worse? The Gemara says, my ein sarach lomer sadais. The Gemara in Chaf Aleph. Ilem mishum de'isbat harti chada chanias karka v'chada dekamafka l'mimaiser. If you want to say that sada has two things, a bais has only one thing, but a sada has two isurim. One is There's an issue of chiniya b'karka to a goy in Eretz Yisrael. Number two, that's a whole big issue now with the with the Trump deal and everything like that. If we can be basking to it, al pi halacha, to give over certain parts of Eretz Yisrael to goyim, that's a huge problem. Number two, v'chara kamafkala b'maiser, and secondly, you're mafkia the sadeh from mafkia maiser. So you're being mafkia two chiyuvim deraisa by a sadeh. Mashenk in a house, all there is chiniya b'karka. There's no maiser in a house. So the Gemara says, there should be two problems also by a bais. It shouldn't be any worse than a sadeh. Choda chinias karka, you're giving him karka in Israel. Choda mafkala mezuzah. You're being mafkia the bais mafkia mezuzah. So you're also, by giving it to a goy, you're also are being mafkia two chiyuvim from the house. So why is the sadeh worse? So I'm Rasharshia mezuzah chovas hadarhu. It's a chovas hadar. Rashi over there speaks out very strongly. Rashi says chovas hadar in Avodah Zarah. V'lo chovas habayis. Rashi comes very strongly to say it's a chiyuv on the gavra, not a chiyuv on the house. Hilkach lekaf kasa. Therefore, it's not considered a hafka from mezuzah because there was never a chiyuv on the bais of Eretz Yisrael to have mezuzah. It's a chiyuv only on the gavra to put it up. Chovas hadar. That it's only the one, the Torah is only mechayev, the person, the gavra who walks in and out of that house. On him, there's a chiyuv. But the house itself doesn't have a chiyuv. So it's not like you're mafkia two chiyuvim from that house, from the chefza of the house, when you sell it to a goy. Mashenken the sada, you're mafkia two chiyuvim from the sada that are chal on the etzem chefza of the sada, the chiniya b'karka and the meiser. So that lashon of Rashi is very, very strong in Megala, without a shadow of a doubt, the pshat in Rashi by us, that it's a chovas hadar in Rashi, but lo chovas habayis. Similar to that, there's lashon of Rambam. The lashon of Rambam at the end of the fifth parak of Tefillah Mezuzah. Rambam says a masker bais lechaveroi ala socher lahavi mezuzah lekava osa afilu haya nosin schar al kiyasa. It's a chiyuv on the socher. Why? He says the Rambam b'pnei sham mezuzah chovas hadarhi ve'ena chovas habayis. So exactly like Lashon Rashi in Avodah Zarah, the Rambam says it's chiyuv on the person, not a chiyuv on the bais. Tosas, however, over there, the Shitasam, Tosas and Avodah Zarah, because according to Rashi, the pshat in the Gemara is very geshmak. There's only one chiyuv on the bais, not in mezuzah. So Tosas over there says also that a socher is never chayiv deraisa because there's two drushes of beisecha. In chiyuv zeh min Torah de midiraisa p'tura la'olam k'dechsiv beisecha v'lo shel cheret. Baba got the darshin beisecha b'yasa. Okay, there's two beisecha ksidi. Rabbanan hu de chiyuv v'lachar lamed mipnei sheniris k'shalo midi d'havi atalas she'ula the kol shloshim yom p'tura. Hu din la'olam min Torah mishum dechsiv k'susecha v'lo acherim. Rabbanan hu de gazra. So Tosfos learns over here that the chiyuv, the pshat in this Gemara, is that mezuzah chovas hadar, you have to say that if the owner would have wanted to rent this house to another yid, so then there would not be a chiyuv mezuzah on this house. It wouldn't be a chiyuv on the masker because he would not be living in it, because tarti bin, and you need two things, and it would not be a chiyuv on the socher midaraisa either, because it's not beisecha, it's not his house. So therefore, by selling it to a goy, it's no worse mitzad the mezuzah than renting it to another Jew, and it's for sure no issur to rent it to a Jew. So therefore, mezuzah can't come into play.
So what's the Gemara's hava mean according to Tosfos?
I don't know. Maybe he held a hobby and was like Rashi, and coming like himself. It's a good question, but maybe whatever we held in the hobby, whatever. Maybe he held the maksha and held like Rashi. But the Ma'aser Tosfos learns that the maskana that Chovas Hadar is telling us not to tell you like Rashi that's a chiyuv in the gavra, not in the house, but it's coming to tell you for carrot that it's a until the Gemara was Mechadish Chovas Hadar. So maybe I would have thought maybe the Havamina was that until the Gemara says Chovas Hadar, I would have thought that the maskir is always going to be chayav in the mezuzah, even if he rents it out. Chovas Hadar, no, that since he's not actually living in it, somebody else is living in it. Maybe bishlam if nobody else is living in it, and use it. Maybe it's like a base of tevin or a base of otzer or something like that. He would still be chayav in it. But someone else moves into it, then it transfers the Chovas Hadar to the other person, but he has an ownership. So manashach, both of them are become patur. It's possible Tosfos learned Havamina that the maskir would be chayav if nobody else does live in it. In the Kamash Chovas Hadar, so once Chovas Hadar, then now Tosfos puts in this whole sort of maskir and socher, and tells us that neither of them will be chayav, and for sure there's no isser of doing that. So you can't say that a goy is afka mezuzah either, because there wouldn't have been a chiyuv mezuzah no matter who lives in it, unless the owner himself lives in it. So it's more dochak in the Gemara. Rashi is much more glat and pashut in the Gemara over there. Kopanim, Rashi and Tosfos both come out in the Shitasam that the Tosfos holds it's a chiyuv. You need two things: it's a chiyuv on the house, and you need to live in that house to be chayav. And Rashi holds is purely Chovas Hadar tells you, Midaraisa, it's purely a chiyuv on the person. There's no din to own it at all, like the first lashon of Tosfos by us that there's only one beischa. We only darshan beisecha biascha, not din of ownership.
Even though it's written twice, Beisecha, according to Rashi, he doesn't do anything with the second Beisecha.
Right, because the Gemara says once the Gemara says that we darshan Beisecha derech biasecha, there's no place in Shas that says there's no other drasha that says you need ownership. Tosfos Mechadish that there's no Gemara that says that. So once the Gemara, the only time the Gemara did handle with the lashon Beisecha is it said that it's lav dafu, that means derech biascha, then Rashi holds we don't have the right to suddenly make up our own drasha to say there has to be ownership, and that's what the Rambam says as well. It's dar v'lo elabais. Similar to that, we have a machlokas Rashi and Tosfos in Pesachim daf daled and Aleph. That over there we talk about the chiyuv b'dikas chametz by a socher. So the Gemara says, Toshma, Maskir Bais L'Chaveru, Ala Socher Lasis L'Mezuzah. The Gemara wants to bring a raya from this brisa in Bab Metzia and in Chafalav in Avodah Zorah, that it's a chiyuv on the socher to put up mezuzah, so it should also be a chiyuv on the socher to do b'dikas chametz. So the Gemara answer is Hasam ha'amar b'sharshi mezuzah chovas hadarhi achamai. In other words, you don't have a raya from there. There's a special chiyuv of mezuzah. It's a chovas hadar, and maybe that's why he's chayav in mezuzah. You don't have any raya from there who has a chiyuv b'dikas chametz. So Rashi over there adds a word they didn't say anywhere else in Shas. In Rashi's Megala over there, one extra nekuda of Chovas Hadar, and Pesachim daf daled and Aleph. He says Chovas Hadar, the fishi misham raso. Here for the first time, Rashi puts the shmira into the equation. And the person that's going to be living there, he's the one that needs the shmira. It says beisecha biascha, which means nichnas v'yotzeba. The person that goes in and out of it, that's the person that needs the shmira. So he is the chiyuv mezuzah. Al hacha b'dikas chametz, they're abundant. and it goes to the whole shtickle Torah about because chametz derbanan, and we're not sure who midiraisa. Nobody's really chayav. It's chayav derbanan. So the question is, who did they put that tircha on? You can't bring a raya from mezuzah. So Rashi again, l'shitaso, learns that the chovas hadar tells us a chayav on the gavra, not on the bais, and that's why you can't compare it to chametz, the maskana. Tosfos over there says that don't tell me that chovas hadar tells you that it's a chayav on that person. Rather, kolomar, he makes a kolomar out of it, which whenever they say kolomar means they're taking it out of kapshuto. That's a klal in Rishonim. Afilu lo haya maskira hayachali pater mezuzah shlo haya dar mishitikanas habayis. Like a mechametz ilo lasker la'achar yistarach libdok. Those says that even if you wouldn't have rented out to anybody, if you wouldn't live in it yourself, you wouldn't use the house at all, you would just own it, then you'd be no chiyuv mezuzah. The ownership alone would not be mechayiv you because you need like it says all over Shas, you need tarti, you need two things: a ownership over the house to be chayiv in deraisa, and you need to actually live in the house. So so here, chovas hadar, and even if you wouldn't have rented it out, you might have not have to do put a mezuzah. Mashenken, if it's your house and you didn't rent it out to somebody else, there's pashut you would have to do b'dikas chametz on it. So maybe you can't compare mezuzah to b'dikas chametz. The Tosfos gets around the thing through the back door. But throughout all these sugyas, time and time again, Rashi and Tosfos are l'shitasan. Rashi chovas hadar tells you a chiyuv on the gavra alone only, and Tosfos learns it's a tzir for the ownership of the house plus a dira in the house. There is a third shita as well. There's a third mahalach in this, which interesting mahalach. The Shita Mukabetzes in Bab Metzia in Kufalef and Beis in that sugya says in the name of Rabbeinu Yehonasan that Rav said mezuzah chovas hadar kolomar, again a kolomar here, ala socher la sosa v'shehia suya l'shmira misho omed b'bayis kanamrina b'ba'agara. That it's he puts in what Rashi said over there. He put it it's the chiv shmira. The din shmira is on the person that's living in it. Shloki midas hakadosh baruch hu midas basar adam avodah b'shamar, so etc. Hashem shomer, we put a mezuzah. Look at the frushe chovas hadar. She'ein bayis chay mezuzah limken darba. You can't say. In other words, if you have a choice of two people, and the one that needs a shmir, he should have to put it up. But you can't. Don't learn from here that a bayis is pater if you don't live in it. Like Tosfos says, that kaimalon. So I'm not sure where this kaimalon. He says we paskin. I don't know where this comes from, but he just says it in Deborah Pasha. Kaimalon. Afil yeshlo asara batim she'ena darbahem dira kavua el shenichnas v'em panach v'shana. Somebody, a rich guy, has 10 houses all over the world, and he goes into each house for a couple days. Once a year, he goes into all of his houses. At least once a year. Otherwise, it's I guess not a base dira at all. But he says chayavas kulam b'mezuzah, kutzim beis ha'etzim shanashim me'osas ben, etc. He says all those batim are chayav. So there is a minimum just to consider it a base dira to at least walk into it once a year. But beyond that, there's no chiyuv to actually live in it. And even if you're not actually living in it, if you own it and you walk in there once a year, then you're chayav. Also in our sugya, there's mashma like that from the Nuki Yosef on the Rif. I'm to the very end of the Nuki Yosef, in the last column. Brings down, he says, the din of maskir bais. Ala socher should tzorach l'shmira, kevin should dar b'socha. So it's chiv on the socher because he needs the shmira. V'avagav she'im lo haya socha haya chayav hamaskir lasos lo mezuzah. Midi dehavi a-beis ha-tevin a-beis ha-eitzim. If there wasn't a socher, then the maskir would have to put it because it's no worse than any other beis ha-tevin, beis ha-eitzim. even if it doesn't live in it. Since the socher came in and the masker didn't put a mezuzah up, maybe he should have, but he didn't. So he has to put up a mezuzah, and merely he also can't take it away. So we'll speak more about this Smicha Yosef in the next sugya when we talk about the issue of taking off the mezuzah. But Lamaisa, he's learning like Rabbeinu Yonasan that the Chovas Hadar only tells you that if somebody does live in it, if a socher lives in it, he has first chiyuv because he wants to have the shmira. But if he wouldn't live there and nobody would live there, then the maskir, the owner of the house, would have to put it up. So the ikar chiyuv is purely on the bais.
What do they all do with the second Beisecha?
It's just we love Dafka Darshan from every time. It's just a repetition. We don't find anywhere because all they darshan from it, so they just don't darshan it. But I mean, if anything, for Carrot, if anything, Smicha Yosef and the Rabbeinu Yonasan are learning that second Beisecha is a davar pashat, that it has to be pshutal shemikra. It's a chiyuv on your house. Just the one that's, if someone else is living in it, so a different person is living in it, then they have derech b'yascha, that they have the shmiras, and then that trumps the chiyuv of the owner. But if he goes out, then it defaults back to the pashat beisecha, that whoever's owner is the owner is chayav b'tzad atzmo, even without living in it. So derech b'yascha is only for Carrot, since the Rashi is the only one who doesn't. Rashi and the Rambam who don't darshan the second beisecha. Tosfos makes a point of saying we do, it's a chiddush, and these are shown don't even speak it out. They seem to learn that it's just a double pasuk that we darshan that. That's just the pasuk shot in the pasuk. It's your house is a chayah, period. It's like no worse than a basic tevin or anything else. You own it, you're chayah in mezuzah. If it's royal adira, even though you're not living in it. Someone else lives in it, then they overtake the chiyuv. But if they leave or there's nobody else there, then for Carrot, then the owner is chayah. So it comes out that there are three main shitas over here. You have shitas Rashi and Rambam, that it's purely a chiyuv in the gavra, that Chovas Hadar tells us that when we darshan beisecha derech b'yascha, that we don't darshan anything but that. It purely is chayav on the one that's yotzei b'ba from that house. It's a chiyuv on him. Tosfos learns that we have two beisechas, one for that drasha, the second for ownership, which you need a tziruf of the two. You need to actually live there, and it has to be your house to be chayav midaraisa. If you're missing any of those, then you would be chayav only midrabanan. And then the third shita, Rabbeinu Yonasan and Smicha Yosef, that beisecha works on its own right. You don't need tarti. You don't need two. All you need is one. Either or. Either you're the darba and you're chayav because you need the shmira, or it's your house and no one else lives in it, and you're chayav just inside your ownership of the house.
Can a potential nafkamina be if you rent out the house, except for Sukkot? Let's say in Eretz Yisrael, people rent it out for the entire year, except for Sukkot. So maybe according to Rashi, there's more of a dar in the renter because he lives there 345 days of the year, as opposed to maybe according to the other shitas, they'll say that still, since the Baal still has some type of dira there, that will be the chiyuv would be on him instead of the renter.
To think about that, it's possible, but it's also possible to say that we learned from the Gemara in Yuma that even a dira of 7 days, if there's nothing else chaser in it, then as long as you're living a full dira, the Kohen Gadol and the Lishkas Fahadrin for 7 days was considered a dira kavua for him to be chayav in mezuzah. So if it's his house and he lives in it for those 7 days, for the 8 days of Sukkot, 9 days of Sukkot, then it's very possible that there would still be a chiyuv.
I mean, we said even for a vacation home, if you have one, if you're there once a year, 1 day, it's mechuyev, no?
Well, that's Rabbeinu Yonasan. The other shitas, it's not so pashut. I mean, if you're not really, that's not a dir kavua. Rabbeinu Yonasan says that way, but and he says kaiman on like that. We don't. Torah doesn't speak about that. Nobody really does speak out the Farish. Moshe seems to allude to that. He says the houses in the country. I don't know. Maybe he's talking. I think he's talking about Shuir though. It's a good question. Good question. If you would own it and you go there, let's say just for a short time in the summer, it's possible you probably would be chayav because you are the owner. And the Tanai of Shloshim Yom is only by a socher, not by an owner. So, and also maybe fakir. Also, if you rent it out the whole year, but the owner is there for a week. If you're the owner, you're chayav miyad. There's no Tanai of Shloshim Yom by the owner. So in a chanami, you probably would be chayav during that time. Okay. So now, so we have these fours over here with chiv and the bias, chiv and the gavra, the shas. How do we paskin? How do we hold? So we'll take a look at here that Rabbi Kiveger Kiveger is a taina. Kiveger is a taina is like this, that he declares a shaila if in the end of Simon test, which we sent out in Tshuva test, in the end, Kiveger is down over here by Richas Hilchos Mezuzah. He says that Agav, he wants to Modia the show over here that he holds that if you leave your house, Mishiyatza midirasa the bais acher ledosham. Yes, mezuzah mikfar sheiniach hadar harishon. Chuyav hu levarach al mezuzah. Zu mitzvah chadasha levar. He says it's never pashat, and I don't know. He said no one talks about it, maybe because it's so pashat that if I move from one house to another house, move into a new house, and that second house has a mezuzah already, I just have to make a bracha on it because it's a new mitzvah for me. The mezuzah is the same, but for me it's a new mitzvah, so I just have to make a new bracha. He goes on even more than that. It says that nearly gam, if a person goes off every day to the shuk to do it, he goes off to his office or goes out to work every day. Sometimes he even goes away for a few days on a business trip. It says l'chora din, when he goes back to his house, yivarach al mitzvah, used to make a bracha, because now it becomes a new chiyuv, similar to sukkah. And even though you have things, you have people there, you have stuff in there, but the Maisa mitzad, the bnei bayis are platim mitzad atzum. They're not the owners. You're the only ones the owner. They're like in a bayis shula b'schura. So how about kamoshi yotze misukah lasaka b'chozo l'sukkasa the mevarach? It's no different than you make a bracha on the sukkah in the morning. You go out to work all day. You come back at night and back in your sukkah. You make a new bracha. So ma'ishna. And so he says that it's based on, Rukheger says his svara is based on a Magen Avram. Magen Avram, Yechus Tzitzis, is going on in the Ramah and Simon Chaf Aleph, Sif Gimel, that somehow Yeshakasu Shanogu Shalo Lishka Batala Shif Batzitzis. We don't go to sleep with wearing tzitzis. And in the Magen Avram there in Ois Beis says the Beis Yosef says that he never heard of anybody that's makbid on this. But in the Kisar Rizal, he says al piyasod, you should sleep with the tzitzis at night. And what's his raya from the Gemara Menachos? That when David Melech saw himself, when he was in the base of Merchatz, David Melech saw himself, he realized, I'm Aram min mitzvahs. I'm not making any mitzvahs now in the base of Merchatz. So Achlish Sadas, oily, Shani Aram min mitzvahs. So Frekta Rizal, why didn't he ask that every night? Every night when he goes to sleep, if he's not wearing tzitzis, he's Aram min mitzvahs. So it must be he didn't ask this kasha every night. He only asked it in the base of Merchatz, David Melech, because at night he's wearing his tzitzis. It's not Urim and mitzvahs. That's the result. So the Magen Ram says that Devar of Divrei Kabbalah, the Kabbalah. If he's saying Divrei Kabbalah, if he has a Masara like that, we'll accept it. But if he's trying to bring a raya, I have a tshuva. Because at night, at night you have a mezuzah on your door. So when you're sleeping in a house with a mezuzah, then you're mekayim mitzvahs mezuzah. And that's like the Gemara says that Tan Rabbanan Chavivin Yisrael shesiva manakadosh baruch hu b'mitzvahs tefillin v'tzitzis mezuzah. You have tefillin on Rosh Hashanah, you have tzitzis on your beged, and you have mezuzah surrounding you. V'alem Amar David sheva b'yim halaticha. But when he saw the base of Merchatz, he saw himself Arum, then he's Arum Kulam. He's not wearing tzitzis, he's not wearing tefillin, he's also Arum mezuzah. That's the Magen Avraham. So the Magen Avraham is telling us, Rick Fager didn't speak this out, but he just Maramis to look at the Magen Avraham. He's telling us to see from this Magen Avraham that you're only Mekayim Mitzvahs Mezuzah when you're inside the house, sleeping or whatever, you're inside your house. You go out to the base of Merchatz, you're Arum in Mezuzah. You're not, at that moment, you're not Mekayim Mitzvahs Mezuzah, even though the Mezuzah is up in your house. So Mela, if you're not Mekayim it, then it's no different than a sukkah. When you come back to your house, you should make a new bracha. So that's what Kivir Tainus. Now, at the end of the tshuva, he says, Achras man ra bal yodi sefer Bircha Yosef. Sefer Bircha Yosef, which is the Chida. And he says over there that it says Pshitas. So basically, if you look inside there in Bircha Yosef, he asked the Kasha of Kivir, and he holds Betzim B'Svora. Well, you should make a bracha if you leave your house, come back when you make on the mezuzah. But he says a chiddush in Hilchos Brachos that Chazal only kaveya birchas mitzvahs when you do a maisa, like a maisa mitzvah. So since you only do the maisa mitzvah when you're kaveya the mezuzah, Chazal will only kaveya birchas mezuzah b'shas kfiyas mezuzah. Not every time you're makayim mezuzah. So you see from the Birchas Yosef that that's mitzad Hilchos mezuzah. He agrees with the Rick Veger. He agrees that if you're only Mekayim the mezuzah when you're in the house, when you leave, you're not Mekayim mezuzah, and therefore it should follow you should make a bracha. So besides Hilchos mezuzah you should. Besides Hilchos brachas, it's a klal in Hilchos brachas. Brachas mitzvahs you only make it when you do a ma'aseh mitzvah, and therefore that's why you don't make a bracha. But besides the yisoda shel davar, Rick Yosef agrees with Rick Veger that it's paka the mitzvah from you when you go out of the house. So, you see clear from Kveger and from this Magen Avraham and from the Birchas Yosef that the Chiyuv Mezuzah is a Chiyuv in the Gavra. They're all going with these sort of Rashi. So we were clearing how do we hold, like we have Rashi and the Rambam on one side, you have Tosfos and the Rosh. The Rosh also like Tosfos, the second Lashon Tosfos and Tosfos, but Azara, they're all going on the other side. And Kol Sheken, Rabbeinu Yonasan, and with Yosef, they're the extreme of that's the chiyuv and the bais. But all these achronim, the Magen Avraham, and then maybe the Arizal didn't hold. You could be right from mezuzah because maybe the Arizal holds you're only mekayim mezuzah when you put it on the house. It's only there's enough kamina will be. Are you really mekayim mezuzah every kol rega b'rega, or you're only mekayim it when you actually put it up in the house? If it's a din in the bais, maybe you did your chiyuvs, you put it up in the bais, you're done. So it's up there. So fine, you remember Hakadosh Baruch Hu, there's milas and everything like that. But outside the etzem kiyum mitzvah, you did it already when you put it up. So you can't say it's paka when you leave. It's just it's no difference. You leave or not. It's up in the house. So the Rizal didn't want to say that. So it came on the tzitzis. Magen Avraham learns then the gavra, and you have to be in the gavra has to be derech b'yascha. You have to actually be in the house to mekayim mitzvah mezuzah. And Rick Yeager is going with that, and Birchas Yosef is going with that. Just it's a shayla and brachas. With time mezuzah, they all seem to agree it's a chiyuv in the gavra. Now the problem is that seems to be pretty clear in all these achronim. The problem is that there's another Rebbe Kveger, the Siman Samech Vav in Tshuvas, who asks a kasha on our Magen Avraham. On our Shach. In Sifchaf Beis, in Reish Pevav, in Sifchaf Beis, that's our halacha that says Hasocher Bayis B'chutz Laaretz V'adar B'Pundaki B'Eretz Yisrael Pater Mimezuzah Shloshim Yom Hasocher Bayis B'Eretz Yisrael Chayiv Mezuzah Miyad B'Shunu Yusha B'Eretz Yisrael. Says the Magen Avraham, why is Shloshim Yom Pater Mezuzah? I'm sorry, I keep saying we're going to run. The Shach, I'm sorry, says, Pater Mezuzah, She'enu Nikra Adayan Dira. It's not called his Dira yet. Until Shloshim Yom. So, mashma that when it will be called Dira, Shloshim Yom, then you'll be Chayav Mamish. How could the Shach say that? That's the wrong time. We paskin like Tosfos in the Lishna and Basra by us, and Tosfos and Avodah Zarah and the Rush, and they all we paskin like that shita that a socher is always pater midaraisa, even achar shloshim yom. According to Rashi and everything, anachlami you're chayav deraisa, but we don't paskin that way. We paskin it's all the rabbanan because it's a din in beisecha. You have to own the house. So then the right words of the shach should have been pater mezuzah shloshim yom, that it's not michzei kedirasa. It's the whole kind of rabbanan is achar shloshim yom. It looks like it's his dira. But the words of the Shach are wrong. She'enu nikra adayin dira is mashma that if once it is nikra dira, then you'll be chayav mamish. The Nachlat Tzvi on the Shulchan Aruch brings this figure down on this kasha on the Shach. So, now without going to try to answer Rick Verger's kasha right now, from his kasha alone. And therefore he goes away from the shach. So from this kasha, you see that Rebbe Kveger learns that there's a chiyuv on the bais, like the second teretz Tosfos, or at least tarti bayin. Chalpachas, you need two things. So then, how can Rebbe Kveger then say if it's a chiyuv on the bais? How can he say that every time you leave, you come back, you should make a new bracha? That's for only works if you hold that it's a chiyuv in the gavra, not a chiyuv in the bais. So the chorah is a steer in Rukveger himself. But bedochak the chorah you have to say that if Rukveger is going to have like the second mahalach of Tosfos, and we say taka tartibin, and you need it's a chiyuv in the bais, and it's a chiyuv of dira the person. So even though you might have it up on the house, you reclaim that part, but sof kol sof. There is a t'nai also, a second drasha of biascha that you have to actually be there and live there. So it's possible, even though it's more dochak to say this, but Rebbe Kveger holds what he holds, even though he's holding like the second lashon of Tosfos, and that's how strong we say that it's not either or, it's both. Not like Rabbeinu and Nasan, it's only a chiyuv in the house, but it's both. It's two beisecha ksivi. So there's one t'nai that's yours, and you have it in the house, and second t'nai is you live there. And living there means that you actually are there inside. But if you go out, that's what the Magen Ram said. If you go out, David Melech was in the base of Merachatz, he wasn't Mekayim Mezuzah, and for sure, Kveger learns that for sure that Magen Ram is going lahalacha. He's going according to Tosfos. The holds that you need. There's two drashas. It must be that the second drasha of Derech B'Yascha that you have to live there is you have to live there mamish. You have to actually be there. Pile, not just that you live there in general. You have to actually be there. And if you leave there, then it's paka the chiyuv mezuzah from you at that moment. You're not mekayim any mezuzah, even though it's up in your house and you're mekayim the second din. And that's enough to have to make a bracha when you come back. Except for in Hilchos brachas you can't because you're not doing a ma'aseh. But mitzad the yesod, you see a big yesod in Hilchos mezuzah from this Rebbe Kveger and from this spirit. Now, halacha l'ma'aseh. Rav Moshe has in a tshuva. It's in Igros Moshe Aleph, Yeridei Aleph, Sudan Kufayin Tes. So he's speaking over there about the machlokes of poskin. If you're allowed to be kovei mezuzah before Shloshim Yom, the back there in our sif in Chaf Beis, Resh Pevav Chaf Beis. So the Nachlas Tzvi. It's mentioned also Bekitzer in the Piskei Tshuva, which is by the same author as the Nachlas Tzvi. So it's a Piskei Tshuva in Yud Ches. He mentions the Bekitzer, but in Nachlas Tzvi, more by Richos, he learns from the Hagon Milisa. Hagon Milisa is the Nesivis, the Chavas Das, the Nesivis, same person. says that Socher Bais Ad Shloshim Yom Pater. He has in his parish he has a sitter in which he has Kitzur Halacha. So he says your Socher Bais Ad Shloshim Yom Pater. Mashma you Socher Al Yosem Shloshim Chai Miyad. If you socher it for more than 30 days, you're immediately chayav. Nachal Svi has time on that. He's cholok on that, and says that Takana D'Rabbanan, it's all Takana D'Rabbanan, and that Takana D'Rabbanan would be with Michsei K'diraso. And even if you're gonna stay there more than 30 days, it's not Michsei K'diraso until you're actually there 30 days. So therefore, you shouldn't put it up at all until after 30 days. So it's a major machlokas achronim over here. So Moshe. Wants to be machriya that like the Nesivis, like the siddur called Divrei Chaim, the Nesivis, the Ragon Melissa, that based on the shach that Rikir asked on, but he said in a nikra adayin dira, that after 30 days it will be his dira. So if you know you're going to be there more than 30 days, then it is called the dira already miyad. So, but since it is a machlokas, so Moshe holds that, therefore you should put it up right away. It should be machmir to put it up right away. However, since the machlokas, you shouldn't make a bracha yet, until after 30 days. And once 30 days comes, then you should be mamashmish. You should put your hands over it. And ideally, if it's not too difficult, even to loosen it and then refasten it. But not chayav to do that. It's just nicer to do that. So if you do that, then you can make a bracha later on. Why? Because it's a mitzvah nimsheches. He says, why should it be any different than tefillin or tzitzis? So we find that if you put on your tefillin or tzitzis before the zman, let's say, and then sometimes it happens you have to daven real early, put your tefillin and tzitzis on, way before sometimes before zman tefillin, and then when you daven and when you get to zman tefillin, like after Shemona Esrei, then you're mamashmish in the tefillin, you shake it, or you make a bracha then. So you already mekayim the mitzvah? No, because it's mitzvah nisheches. It continues to be a mitzvah after that also. You continue to be mekayim tefillin and tzitzis after that as well. So the bracha is still over lasiyas, and you're still making a bracha before the mitzvah. So Moshe says, why? Mezuzah is no different. So you're even if you were mekayim before, you didn't make a bracha yet, then you can still make it afterwards at the 30 days. So you could be a mashmish, you rub it and make a bracha at that time. So this mentioned machlokes achronim and poskim. We're not going to go into now. You can look in all the poskim speak about it. This is Moshe's psak. And the one thing you see from Moshe, just negate to our shaila, is to call it a mitzvah nimsheches. Then you have to see that there is at least an element of chovas gavra over here. Because if it was purely a chova on the bais, then it's not mitzvah nimsheches. You already did it. You already put it on the bais. Just call it mitzvah nimsheches. We see that it continues kol rega v'rega to be a mitzvah. Well, every moment it's mischadish the mitzvah, like tefillin and mezuzah. Kol rega v'rega, it's a new mitzvah. And therefore, you can make a bracha later as well. And so the ma'aseh that's that I've always paskined over all the years that if you're renting something for more than 30 days, to put it up right away like Rav Moshe, and then to after 30 days to make the bracha. I saw today in Piskei Mezuzahs that he holds very strongly that if you have a contract, he brings achronim to say this, that if you have a contract, he wants to say that all the achronim that were cholok about this nakuda, about putting on before or not, is all if you just went in about pay, you're not sure how long you're staying, and you ended up staying longer. But, or you said, I'll pay, you're going to stay longer, but you could leave if you want. But if you have an actual contract that's enforceable by law, for let's say for a year to rent it there, then the kuli alma, you would make a bracha right away. Because the kuli alma is considered a dir kavua immediately, because you don't have the right to leave. You don't have the right to break that contract. So the kuli alma, you would put it up right away and with a bracha. I'm not sure though where Moshe. I'm trying to find out. I was trying to speak to her first to see if you heard from Moshe about this. If he held what he held even in that situation, because Moshe the tshuva is not machalik. It didn't say this chiluk. So whether we would come out and say that Rav Moshe would mask him or not, I'm not sure yet. The Aruch HaShulchan actually says, yeah, no, that's a different thing. Sorry. Yeah. So the yeah, and I'm saying he does say that. Aruch HaShulchan says Nira Barer, Zeh Shenis Bar Shloshim Yom Potter, Zeh Kishasachar the Pachas Shloshim Yom, O Sachar Stam, O Sachar the Lamed Yom Chayav Miyad, the Skiris Liyama Mimkarhu, the Kamed Varim, the Pachas Shloshim Nikra Aroi, Al Kishasachar the Shloshim Yom, the Yosef Pshita Miyad Chayav. He says that's the minig pasha in the shana. So the Aruch HaShulchan also paskins clearly if you have a contract for more than 30 days, then you're chayav miyad, which would mean with a bracha. So that's another strong reason to make it. You have an Aruch HaShulchan also in this testament. So I just have to be mavara, and I have to see if Moshe really held that way or not himself. Maybe next time for this year, the last year, we'll come up again. We'll clarify that in Nakuda. And another chiddush, one last chiddush of the Aruch HaShulchan is that we say that pundak is pater, unless you're going to be there 30 days. Otherwise, you're pater. He says that's only if the Baal pundak is a goy. If the Baal pundak is a Yisrael, he's chayav to mezuzah right away in all the rooms that orchim are going to live in it, because it's his bias for the orchim. So the owner of the pundak that's going to have people coming in and out of it, he seems to say that it's pasha that the owner of so if you have an Airbnb and people coming in and out, then the owner should be high, because it's no worse than a base of eitzim or base of tevin. It's like the people living there become like your wares. So it's just a little not clear from the words of the Aruch HaShulchan that he says Beisahu B'Shel Orchim. Is he talking about he has rooms in his house that he rents out, or he's talking about a separate rental? So since it's not clear, I think it's pretty clear the minig is not to do that. The minig is if you have goyim especially coming in and out, then you have an Airbnb with that goyim coming in and out as well. People don't put up mezuzah. But that's another. It's worth you being mavara. It's a very interesting shaila. Okay, it's hours late, so.
Rebbe?
Yeah.
It seems like in various halachas we've done, once we saw one shita that says something different than the rest, we're going to be machmir like them. So, like, same thing here. I mean, according to Tosas, you would never, even if it's in the contract that you're going to be there for more than 30 days, since you're not the owner, so there would be no bracha to say.
No, that's no. Tosas only saying that it's no chiyuv d'oraisa, but Tosas for sure agrees that the socher that's chayav d'rabbanan makes a bracha on that chiyuv d'rabbanan.
So you're still making so the d'oraisa and bracha are not contingent upon each other.
No.
I see. Okay. Shkadach, thank you.
All right, Kol Tuv. It's one share left to finish the sugyas. Mr. Shem. So see you next week. Mr. Shem.
Shkadach.